Basketball postseason tournament teleconference. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. If you would like to ask a question during the conference, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. To withdraw your question, press the pound key. I would now like to turn the call over to Mike Kern. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Stephanie. Let's go ahead and get started. We do have Coach Marty Simmons of Evansville. Evansville opening in the CIT tournament, facing IPFW at home. IPFW with a 16-14 record. The Aces looking for victory number 20 should they get it on Wednesday. The game is slated for a 7 o'clock tip. Morning, Marty.
Good morning.
How are you?
Well, we're hanging in there, Mike. Yourself?
Great. Well, what can you tell us about IPFW, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Yeah, well, they're a very good basketball team, very well-coached team. I think they're a very balanced team that really does a great job of sharing the basketball. Their perimeter players can all pass, dribble, and shoot. They can all score from the three-point line. They're very aggressive at attacking. So they're very diversified in that way, versatile. And then they've got a really, really good post player in Forbes. I mean, he's a big guy in there that does a great job of getting angles. He's a very good post passer, does a good job on the glass. But I think they're a very determined team. They play very hard and someone that we certainly got a lot of respect for.
Thank you, Marty. Let's go ahead and open it up now for questions from the media for Coach Marty Simmons.
To ask a question, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, star, then the number 1.
Marty, you talked a little bit about IPFW. Talk about your team and the health of your team. You've had a lot of nagging guys getting in and out of the lineup, including most recently Agidius, and everybody pretty healthy and ready to go.
Well, we basically gave them 6 days off after the Valley tournament, and we got them back Friday for some individual work, and then we've had 2 days here. We're pretty solid. Valentine's the one guy that he tweaked his ankle in that Illinois State game, and he's still having a little bit of difficulty with that. But I think overall, from a health standpoint, we're in pretty good shape. We're just trying to get them back into basketball mode, and I know the next 2 days of preparation will be a key for us.
Again, to ask a question, star, then the number 1.
This will be your second CIT in the last 3 years, having done so in 2013. Talk about the tournament format and what you like about it.
Well, I mean, it's just the format. I mean, you like that for the most part, it seems in the past, at least our experience, we've been able to play somewhat regional, and that kind of fits us. The competition has always been really good. And just any time in the tournament format, I think it's healthy for you, where you learn to play with the pressure of if you're not successful, you go home. And again, you look at the teams, even from our league that have participated in these tournaments in the past and have had some success. I think it's really, really helped them in the following year. I remember when Conzo was at Missouri State, they either won or were in the championship game. The following year, they win the league. You look at Danny's team last year and the success they had. Now they're, getting a bid to the NIT. And, I just think that if you approach it in the right way, that there's growth and benefits that can come from it. But obviously, being prepared and playing really well are the keys.
Marty, thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it. Good luck in the tournament.
Thank you, Mike.
All right. Thanks, Marty. We do have Coach Dan Muller of Illinois State with us. Illinois State playing in the NIT, hosting Green Bay. Illinois State, a number 4 seed, 21-12, facing Green Bay at 24-8. The game is Wednesday at 7 o'clock on ESPNU. Morning, Dan.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
Good. Congratulations on your home game in the NIT. And what can you tell us about Green Bay? Have you had much time to take a look at them? I know you've had less than 15 hours to know who you were playing.
Right. No, a little bit. Saw them play a little bit during the year, just watching games and watching the film on them. They are long and athletic. They, of course, have a great player in Sykes. But the more you watch, the more you realize that it's certainly not a one-man show. Play fast, well coached, used to winning, and they're good. I mean, the bottom line is they're good. So it's going to be a tough challenge, but we're excited about having a home game.
Thank you, Coach. Let's get now to the questions from the media for Coach Dan Muller.
Please press stars and the number 1 to ask your question. Stars and the number 1. Again, stars and the number 1 to ask your question. Our first question comes from Harry Schroeder with the Valley Hoops Insider.
Good morning, Dan. I know you guys are excited about playing in the NIT. Can you just talk a little bit, and I just got on, so you might have already mentioned something about this, but can you talk just about how valuable it is to get extra practices, extra playing time, and then I just heard the tail end there about how excited you are to be able to be playing at home.
Hey, Harry. For me, the practices honestly aren't that valuable at this time of year. The players are tired of practice. I mean, you're not doing enough new stuff. The total value for me is playing against other really good teams in a lose and your season's over scenario. It's a different type of pressure. We talked about it last year. We played in CBI. I thought it was very good for us. It helped us in the conference tournament this year. It just, like I said, it's all about that pressure that you feel for the seniors and everybody else, knowing if you lose, you're done, which is it's unique. So it's a really good tournament. Really excited about having a home game, and that's kind of the added value for me.
Best of luck, Dan. Thanks.
Thanks, Eric.
Again, stars and the number 1 to ask a question.
And I asked the same question to Marty, but the health of the team, how is everybody? Probably helps to have an Arch Madness 1 week prior to the other conference tournaments in terms of getting some rest in the week leading up to the selection show.
Yeah, no, we're healthy. As everybody kind of knows, we're about as healthy as we've been for 2 months, and I got some added rest after last Sunday. So we're doing, knock on wood, we're doing good.
Coach, it appears that's your last line of questions in the queue. Thank you for your time. Good luck against Green Bay on Wednesday. Look forward to seeing you make a deep run.
Okay, thanks, man.
Thanks, Dan. Reaching out to Coach Porter Moser of Loyola. Ramblers hosting on Tuesday night, playing Ryder at home. The first postseason game for Loyola since 1985. And we do have Coach with us. Good morning, Porter.
Morning, Mike.
Congratulations on the bid and the home game.
No, thank you. We're excited just to keep playing. I love my team. I love how hard they're working, and I love practice. So we had an extra week of practice, and excited to be playing.
Let's talk about Ryder. What can you tell us? I know you have had very little time to take a look or get much film on him, but what do you know about Ryder, and what can you tell us about your opponent?
Well, they've had a great year. They won 21 games. They finished second in their league. Their coach does a very good job. He got Coach of the Year in that league. Very good defensively, holding teams to 41% shooting. So they really guard you. So, they're going to press you. But they've had a great year, so we're looking forward to the challenge.
Thank you, Porter. Let's get now to the questions for Coach Porter Moser of Loyola. Questions from the media.
Please press stars and the number 1 to ask your question. Stars and the number 1. Again, that's star, then the number 1 to ask a question. Our first question comes from Harry Schroeder with the Valley Hoops Insider.
Hey, Porter, you talk a lot about keeping that needle pointed up, and I guess getting your first postseason game is just another big step in keeping that needle pointed the right direction.
Harry, exactly right. You know, our guys last night, we got together and we watched a selection show, and we're very proud of where we're at, but we're not satisfied. We want to, you know, we watched as a group as Northern Iowa's team was on national TV with all their fans behind them, and that's where we want to get. But we know there's steps to be taken, and to get the experience of playing after your conference tournament, postseason, and getting that feel of, you know, win or go home, and in terms of your postseason, we need that experience. No one in our locker room has ever done that as a player, and so we've got to be able to take those steps. And you look at the history of the CBI. You know, I look at when I was with Coach Majerus, we went to the finals, and it just set a table for that culture. And ironically, we played Shaka Smart and his team that year, and they went on to go to the Final Four. Wichita took steps in it, and it's just a mindset of postseason that you've got to experience, and hopefully this will be a first step and for bigger and brighter things.
And if I could follow up, Porter, does this help you at all, you think, in the city getting a little bit of attention playing in postseason as well?
You know, I hope so. We're talking to the kids about it. We're talking about the media. I've been on some radio shows last night in the city. So yeah, I think Chicago's craving a team to step up. And no, this isn't the NCAA tournament. I know that's what everyone wants, but it's a step in that direction. And I think people like watching our team. I think people recognize that we play really hard, play the right way, and we got a couple city kids on the team now. So I think it's moving in that direction. People are starting to, relate with our guys.
Good luck this week. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Harry.
Again, to ask your question, star, then the number 1. Our next question comes from the line of Brian Hamilton with Sports Illustrated.
Hey, Porter. I was hoping you could indulge me a quick question on Wichita. I guess when you look at where they were last year versus where they were this year, what are the differences you see between those two versions of the Shockers?
Well, I give them so much credit because they had such a target on their back, and they still were 17-1 in our league. And I just think that's, and they lost a first-round draft pick. They lost Clay Anthony early. They lost an NBA guy, and they were still. It's just a credit to their coaching staff and their kids that they keep going. They don't have. I mean, last year they kind of had like a three-headed monster at the 5 spot, where they just kept on bringing in a big guy, put a body on you, block shots, clog that paint. They had those, and I think Morris is really stepping up at the end of the year right now. When Carter got in foul trouble, now Morris is stepping up. But I think they had that three-headed monster of LaFille. They had 3 big 6'10" guys last year, with Carter being the second one and Chadwick LaFille. But still, they have those top 3 guards. Cotton, Van Fleet, and Baker just will themselves, and that hasn't changed. And that is just a mindset with those 3 that gets the whole team believing they're going to win no matter what the circumstance is.
Thank you, Porter. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Brian.
And to ask your question, star, then the number 1.
Porter, that was your last question. Thank you for your time this morning. Good luck.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Next coach to join us will be Ben Jacobson of Northern Iowa. The Panthers receiving a number 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, playing Wyoming in a first-round game in Seattle. The game will be at 12:40 Central Time on TBS on Friday. Holding for Jake, and we'll have him on momentarily. Notably, the league receiving 2 NCAA tournament bids for the 3rd time in the past 4 seasons. For the 2nd time in that span, both teams are seeded 8 or better. In 2012, Creighton was an 8 and Wichita State a 5. This year, of course, Northern Iowa with a 5 and Wichita State a 7. And we are joined by Coach Ben Jacobson of Northern Iowa. Panthers are 30-3, tying a school record with 30 victories, and facing Wyoming in a first-round game. Good morning, Ben.
Yeah, good morning.
Well, what can you tell us about Wyoming? You haven't had a whole lot of time to do a lot of homework, but what do you know about Wyoming, your first-round opponent?
They obviously had a great weekend coming out of their tournament this past weekend. I watched them a little bit on Saturday against San Diego State when that game was being played live, and then watched some of their stuff last night. And seniors and juniors. I think they start 4 seniors and 1 junior. Larry Nance Jr. is a very good player, very skilled, versatile. He's got size, but scores it kind of all areas of the floor. A little bit like Tuttle does for us. Some similarities between those 2 players. Josh Adams, one of their guards, is just had a terrific weekend for him in their conference tournament. He's been great for him all year long. Another guy that scores it in a lot of ways. And the thing watching them, they know exactly what they want to get done. Defensively, they take a lot of stuff away from you in terms of driving it. They really protect the paint, and then they've got some patience on offense. If they can get something quick, they'll take it. But otherwise, they're not afraid to run that shot clock and get something late in the shot clock.
Thanks, Jake. And you mentioned Seth, and I don't know if you got wind of this, but he's one of just 10 players in our history to get 1,700 career points and 900 career rebounds, and some of those guys include Oscar Robertson, Larry Bird, Xavier McDaniel. So Seth certainly had a great career, and hopefully continues for a few more games.
Yeah, it's been great to be part of that. He's gotten quite a bit of national attention this year, and deservedly so. But man, I've been really impressed with how he's handled himself and how the team has been receptive to Seth, getting a lot of that national attention. That part of it's been a lot of fun for me and fun for our program, obviously, to have the attention. But I've been really impressed with how Seth has handled himself.
Thanks, Jake. Let's get now to the questions from the media for you. Questions for Coach Ben Jacobson.
Again, if you would like to ask a question, start in the number 1. The first question comes from Robert Gagliardi with the Wyoming Tribune-Eagle.
Good morning, Coach. First, congratulations on another great season. And I talked to Larry Scheidt yesterday. He says he knows you very well, has a lot of respect for you. How well do you know Coach Scheidt, and what does your relationship go back to?
Yeah, I had a chance to meet Coach 2 or 3 years ago. We spent some time together, and have since had an opportunity to really get to know each other and talk more and spend some more time together. Prior to meeting Coach a couple of years ago, or kind of in that time frame, I guess I spent a lot of time watching Wyoming play last year and the year before, simply because they've been one of the best defensive teams in the country. And when I saw their numbers, I got really interested in watching them play and trying to find some things that we could add to our defensive system, add to our program, either end of the floor or just in terms of how they do things, because the numbers, popped off the page. And so yeah, I've really enjoyed getting to know Coach and boy, watching him play some more now that we're playing each other on Friday. I had a lot more fun watching them when I was watching them to learn stuff for our team than I did last night watching them trying to get ready.
Right. Coach, you mentioned some of the similarities with Tuttle and Nance for Wyoming. Can you kind of expound on that? Where do you see some of their biggest similarities, and maybe, at least on film, where do you see some of the biggest differences?
I really feel like there's more things that are similar with the 2 guys, and I would start with their versatility. Both guys make enough three-point shots that you feel like you got to go out there and guard them. Both guys will put it on the floor. Both guys are unselfish and have a really good way of involving their teammates. and they're both good in the isolation type situations. You know, I can see watching the film that Wyoming likes to put Nance in situations where he catches the ball anywhere from the block to the 3-point line and isolates some stuff, and he reads those situations very well. He scores it when he has the opportunity. You know, he finds teammates when people run to double him or get the ball out of his hands, and that's real similar to what we've done with Seth. So it just feels to me in watching that there's more similarities than there are differences with the two guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Your next question is from Carson Teague with the Waterloo Courier.
Hey, Jake, we already have, and we're going to see plenty of all these shots in the win over Kansas in 2010. So just A, I guess, how do you feel about that being what your program is known for? And B, do you want to kind of move on from that and maybe create something else this year?
Yeah, Carson, that's a great point and great question. It's I'm really looking forward to seeing that shot played this week, and I think our guys are now, Carson, that we've had the year that we've had. You know, I think prior to the start of this season, you know, over the last 3 or 4 years, you know, that's what we've heard about, right? You know, during the season, but for sure when we get to this time of the year, you know, even when we weren't in the NCAA tournament the last 4 years, that shot still got played, and it's one that gets talked about, you know, around here all the time, as it should. And I think got to the point where, you know, enough, you know, let's move on and let's do our own thing. Kind of got to be the feeling, at least from my standpoint, and maybe some of the guys or a lot of the guys felt that same way. But after the year we've had, Carson, I think the guys have shown themselves that we've got a really, really good basketball team this year, and we have accomplished a lot of things. And so I think more fun to see that shot now.
Also, I was going to ask you about Matt Bohannon, and just with what his brothers have done in Wisconsin, what are the Bohannons doing right to put themselves in these positions?
You know, having Matt, and of course knowing him the best, and I've met his brothers, of course, and know his family. But you know, the work ethic that Matt has demonstrated in his time here, Carson, and I know I've talked a lot about it, very detailed in terms of what he's done and getting in here early in the morning and getting up hundreds of shots and just working to become the very best he can be in terms of a jump shooter. You know, wanting to almost be perfect at it. You know, that's the thing that I've learned from having Matt is he's not afraid to put in all the time it takes to be the very best at something, and that's paid off for him.
Thanks, Jake.
Yep, thanks, Carson.
Your next question comes from Scott Zillatoro with the College Hoops Daily.
Hey, Coach. Good luck. First of all, congratulations on this incredible season. I just want to ask you, what does playing in the Missouri Valley and playing against Campbell Wichita State, how does that help you prepare for this tournament?
Yeah, you know, our league was better this year, Scott, and that I think that's been really good for our team. You know, our league was older, a more experienced league. And much more like it has been most of the time. Last year we were a little bit younger and had a little bit of change in our league with Creighton going out, Loyola coming in, and you know, this year Loyola already you know, finished non-league, I believe 10-2, and had a very good run through the non-league and ended up having a very good season. And so that along with other teams getting older, I think you know, certainly helped us. And I think you know, Wichita State, you know, Illinois State and the NIT, you know, I think it would go across the board that we've the last 2.5 months or so have prepared us for what's coming.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from Andrew Lowe with the Des Moines Register.
Hi, Coach. Wanted to ask you, you know, everybody loves it, you know, when a team wins, but so many, in an age of programs recruiting nationally, you've got so many guys from Iowa. I wanted to ask, how do you think that helps people maybe relate or connect to your team? Do you have so many guys that they kind of watch through high school or state tournament? And the other is, when people ask you about Seth Tuttle, what is the thing you tell them he has developed the most over the last couple of years?
Yeah, you know, it's been such an important part of our program, having the Iowa high school players, be really the backbone of what we're doing, Andrew. And I think that goes all the way back 14 years, and we've worked hard to stay on that same track with the Iowa high school coaches, with the AU programs in the state, and generally just having the guys come through our program. And as you said, as young guys grow up in the state of Iowa and they've got an AAU teammate or they've got a high school teammate that has been at Northern Iowa, I think that feeds on itself, and it's been very, very good for our program, and it's been very, very good for the players that have made the decision to come and play for us. And then with Seth, it's a pretty good list when I get asked about him, of where to start and where to end. He's improved so much as a basketball player. He's improved his work ethic tremendously, and he's handled being in the spotlight as well as anybody that we've had or that I've been around. He's taken all of that in. He's been very respectful and very responsible with it, and been terrific in terms of representing his teammates. And the thing that I've probably liked the most, Andrew, is that he has not changed at all. If anything, he's gotten more humble, and he was that way to begin with. But he has not changed, and I mean that in the best possible way. He's remained just who he is, small town kid and great teammate.
Cool. Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Your next question comes from Luke Meredith with the Associated Press.
Morning, Jake.
Hi, Luke.
I want to ask you real quick. I think even dating back to the days when you were with Mac, this is the highest seed you guys have ever had, and maybe the first time that instead of having that underdog label heading into the tournament, that people are talking about you guys as somebody who can potentially, make a deep run and all that stuff. And does that change the dynamic for you at all about how this whole thing is going to play out?
It does not. It doesn't change the dynamic at all, Luke. In fact, I've from my standpoint, I've enjoyed that part of it with this team. Of course, being around them all the time, I've just been I've been really impressed with how they've handled all of the things that have come their way this year. They've had to work hard to earn it and get themselves in a position to win the regular season title, get themselves in a position to win the tournament, last weekend, and put themselves in a position to get a 5 seed. That's taken a lot of work, and in particular, I would tell you the 5 seniors have had to make some positive changes, and have had to do some things a little bit differently, dating back 8 to 10 months, and so to be a part of that and watch them change and watch that growth, Luke, I'm excited about the fact that we're a 5 seed and we got an opportunity to line it up against a really good Wyoming team, and these guys have been great.
Your next question comes from Ross Jacobson with the Star Tribune.
Hey, Ben. We talked a little bit about the comparison between Nance and Tuttle. Can you go a little bit further and see if there are any similarities between, Wyoming and Northern Iowa in general, with, the slow tempo and the defensive, emphasis?
Yeah. I think both teams are highly efficient. And I know that, it's one of the things that gets talked about a lot is the tempo or the adjusted, possessions or adjusted tempo, all of the different categories right now. And people immediately want to jump to, this is one of the slowest playing teams in the country. When they talk about Northern Iowa, and I'm guessing Wyoming would hear some of that same thing. And I think you hear that some about, with Virginia, and you hear that maybe some about Wisconsin. And when I look at some of the different teams that are similar, and I think Wyoming and Northern Iowa are very similar in a lot of respects. I think you've got two teams that are highly efficient and know exactly what they want to get done, and there's a lot to be said for that. When you've got young guys, 18 to 22 years old, and they've got the kind of discipline it takes to be extremely efficient at both ends of the floor, and know exactly what is going to be best for your team, whether that's get something quick in transition, if not, settle into some offense, defensively being disciplined enough not to get outside of what makes it work for your team. When you hear about some of the things in terms of being a lower possession team, or I just think that takes a ton of discipline for young guys, and Wyoming does it as good as anybody in the country.
Your next question comes from David Greta with the Associated Press.
Hey, Ben. I'm just wondering, you guys play kind of a slower, more methodical style, and everybody's talking about scoring being down and things like that this year. And I'm curious if you've seen a trend toward more teams doing what you're doing, where you run more set plays and you work the shot clock to get a shot, as opposed to the up and down style that maybe we've seen 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I would be able to give you a great answer in terms of just knowing if there's more teams that are tilting toward the defensive end of the floor, and therefore you've got some lower possession type games. The thing that I know has changed from 15 years ago until today, I think, because there's so much availability and access to everybody's games, that from a scouting standpoint, you see everything, so you know exactly what's coming. And now you got to go out and you got to execute, and you got to take that away, right? But you see everything, and so I think from a scouting standpoint, you've got a better chance to take things away, and therefore you're forcing longer possessions, which then of course limits the number of possessions in a game. So I think that part has changed.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Your next question is a follow-up from Harry Schroeder with Valley Hoops Insider.
Hey, Ben, just wanted to ask about last night. Anything surprising about the process, the announcement, and then just what was it like when they finally put the Panther name up and where you were going to be and where you were going to go?
Yeah, I will. Not surprised. I've been asked a couple of times, Harry, about getting a 5 seed and not a 4 seed, and that's not anything that I thought twice about. I felt like we'd be either a 4 or a 5. It seemed like most people felt like we'd be a 4, but I like I told somebody yesterday, I don't know that there's a lot of difference between the 4 seed and the 5 seed. There's that dividing line, or that cut line's probably pretty thin. So not surprised at all there. And then we had a great selection show party. I mean, we had quite a crew of people show up and be there, and boy, there was a ton of enthusiasm, and that was fun to see and fun to be a part of. And I think a great way for our guys to again understand and realize the impact that they're having on our campus and in our community, and I think it sends us off with a lot of confidence.
Good luck, Ben. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks, Eric.
Jake, that was your final question. Thank you for your time this morning. Good luck in Seattle.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye-bye. We are now joined by Coach Greg Marshall of Wichita State. The Shockers play Indiana in the first round of the NCAA tournament in Omaha. Shockers with a 28-4 record, and Indiana at 20-13. The game will be on CBS at approximately 1:45 on Friday. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Mike.
Good morning. How are you?
All right.
So, what can you tell us about Indiana? You haven't had a whole lot of time to do a whole lot of research, but what do you know about the Hoosiers?
Know that they're playing small, they're playing fast, really good offensive team. They're just playing, look like a Valley team in terms of the size that they're able to put out on the floor now. They've had a lot of injuries, so we'll see what we can do.
Thanks, Greg. Let's get now to the questions for Coach Greg Marshall. Questions from the media.
If you'd like to ask a question, please press star and the number 1. The first question comes from David Greta with the Associated Press.
Good morning, Greg. This is sort of out of left field, but I'm curious what your philosophy is on fouling up 3 late in games, whether you like to do it, if there's a time cutoff for you for when you do it. And the reverse side, how do you play against someone who's trying to foul when you're up 3?
Well, if this depends on the team and the game and how they shoot it. Hey, Mark. Just depends on the way the game is going. If it's less than 8 seconds and they've got to go full court, it's a really good three-point shooting team, and they're hot, and they've made a few. And we would definitely consider it. But I don't have any strategy for how to avoid it. Just to see. Yeah, we don't have any strategy to try to avoid it.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I'm just going to watch the 10 o'clock game. I've got a kid I'm recruiting.
Oh, really?
I'm over.
Your next question.
Thank you so much. Oh, wow.
Your next question comes from Brian Hamilton with Sports Illustrated.
Hey, Greg. Sorry to kind of start off pretty broad with this, but when you look at where your team was last year going in the NCAA tournament versus where it is this year, what different challenges have there been this year, and are there any things you're still trying to iron out this late in the season as opposed to maybe where you were last year with that team?
Well, our team was just a more of a veteran team. We had more depth. This is a team with 5 veterans and 8 newcomers, and we're just trying to figure out who's going to help us on a given night. Obviously, we've lost 4 times, which we hadn't done last year. And so, on just going by record alone, we're not as good, and we'll have to try to find ways to win the tournament.
I mean, and when you look, I think some people look at the 7 and think maybe you guys are underseeded a little bit. Does that resonate with your team, do you think? Do you internalize that and use that in some ways to kind of create an edge going in?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I think some people might have thought you would have been higher than a 7, maybe a 4, maybe a 5. Do you use that at all? Do you think you got to internalize that, use that as motivation, kind of put a chip on their shoulder?
It is what it is. And we're 7. We don't get a vote on where they seed us. We went to a Final Four as a 9, so we'll just, if the guys want to have a chip on their shoulder, that's up to them.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from Scott Zolotoro with the College Hoops Daily.
Hey, Coach. Just want to ask, what is your plan to stop the extremely quick guards, the guard play that Indiana has if they try to run a lot?
What is our plan?
Well, how do you? What are your thoughts on their guard play first?
Well, you gotta get in a stance and move your feet, and have one guy guarding the ball and everybody else trying to help support the ball, and sprint your butt back and get butt to the baseline, and make them take tough contested jumpers as opposed to layups and wide open threes.
Do you have any thoughts? I mean, can you just talk about maybe Yogi Ferrell and Blackman Jr.?
Are there any thoughts on them? They're obviously very talented. They wouldn't be at Indiana. I mean, they're good players. They're dynamic athletes. They can shoot it. They can drive it. They've got other guys besides them. Number 5, Williams. He's really long and athletic, and just the film that I watched last night. I mean, they're a dynamic team in terms of their ability to score the basketball.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
Your next question is from Zach Osterman with the Indianapolis Star.
All right, Coach. You talked, I guess, a little bit about that ability to score, and about, you said they reminded you a little bit of the Valley team with the size that they go with. At this time of year, and I know some of it's injuries, but is it tougher or easier to prepare for a team that maybe kind of sells out to one style the way they do, where they try to flood the court with shooters because they don't have that size, and they try to create mismatches, I guess, with all the shooters they can put on the floor?
we have. I only say the Valley because of the size, not the ability. I mean, they're. I don't want to misconstrue that. It's just because of the injuries and all the things that happened in the off season, and then I guess Correa, whether he plays or not, I didn't see him in the games that I watched last night. So I'm talking about, they've got 6, 7 guys that are like swingmen that are playing in the post, but it's a difficult thing to prepare for because of the sheer talent and abilities that these guys have. We're talking, high-level players that are spacing you out and driving it and putting you in a bind as far as keeping that basketball in front and moving your feet and doing all the things that you got to do.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Your next question comes from Steve Pivovar with the Omaha World Herald.
Good morning, Greg.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, obviously this time of year, a lot of times you're going to a really place before. You got a few guys who have played in Omaha. You've obviously made the trip here several times. Is that providing comfort level going into things?
Can you repeat that question?
This time of year, you really play in maybe a Springs arena in the NCAA. You've obviously played in Omaha before. You got a few guys that have played in Omaha before. Does that provide any kind of comfort level going into this first round?
I always like the arena there, whatever it's called. Is it Quest Center?
It's CenturyLink now.
CenturyLink. I always liked playing in that arena. I thought it was a beautiful arena. It's big, and always, obviously you were playing against a quality opponent, and when we went there, I'd still like to play there in the future. So, just for whatever it's worth, I don't have many guys that really played there. I mean, I think Kel Cotton played there. Maybe Fred Van Vliet. Baker played. Baker was coming back off injury. I think that was his first game back, his freshman year, from the 21 games that he missed with the foot injury. So, he played very well, as I recall. Kel Cotton obviously played there, but I think that's it. I don't think we have enough guys. Steve, maybe Fred. Did Fred play? He would have been a freshman on that team too. Yeah. So I don't think it's enough guys that it's going to really help us. But it is a great facility, and I remember enjoying competing there. And it's only 4.5 hours, so we should have some fans. 4.5 hours from Wichita, but we have fans not just in Wichita. So I'm looking forward to having some fans there, and maybe maybe we'll get to play there again at some point.
Obviously, you have to take care of business against Indiana. Kansas has to take care of business, but obviously a few people are looking ahead to a possible matchup in that next game between you and the Jayhawks. What would that mean to you guys?
What would it mean to us?
Yeah.
It would mean that we're in the third round, or whatever they call it now, with a chance to go to the Sweet 16. Obviously, if we do play Kansas, that would mean we're playing another blue blood program like Indiana, and it's just a great opportunity for us.
Thanks, Greg. Look forward to seeing you.
Okay, Steve. Look forward to seeing you. Thanks.
Your next question comes from Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times.
Congratulations.
Hey, Mark. Thank you.
To follow up on that, I was just curious, when you saw the bracket yesterday and you see what your potential second rounder could be, is your gut reaction, oh, that's cool? Or is your gut reaction, okay, I've got to challenge as a coach now in the next few days to get my players to shut out the noise and the national thoughts about Kansas and Wichita State maybe playing, and just get them to focus on Indiana and shut out the noise of that?
You know, Mark, I didn't like the fact that we were 7-2. I thought we were going to be a 6 maybe at the worst, maybe a 5. We're 12th ranked. Our RPI is like 17, and our, whatever the BPI is, we're much better than that. I don't even know what that is, but something ESPN talks about. But so I thought we'd be some 6, but we're 7. And again, as many years as I've been in the NCAA tournament, I think this is my 11th year. Not one time have I gotten a call to have any feedback on where they put my team, or what region we get to go to, or whether we're far away from home, or just it's a point where the ball is tipped on Friday afternoon. Seeding is irrelevant. You got to play against a storied program in Indiana, and then if you're fortunate enough to beat them, and Kansas is fortunate enough to beat New Mexico State, and we play the Jayhawks. If not, we play the Aggies, who we've already played this year. So, the tournament's full of upsets and surprises, and you want to, as a higher seed, you don't want that to happen. As a lower seed, you want to be one of those teams that's full of surprises. We just got to get ready to play. That's all it is. We got to get ready to play and guard those tremendously talented young guards for Indiana, and rebound and keep them out of transition and not let them get open shots.
You've been in the tournament so much now. Do you still let yourself, whether it was yesterday or over the past week, kind of feel good and be gratified about that you're going back to the NCAA's, even though you're used to it by now? Or do you look at the bracket and go, personally to me it means a lot to see my name up there, with my school's name up there with a blue blood like Indiana, or bracket with a blue blood maybe playing Kansas, like you mentioned about the blue bloods there? Does that kind of give you some personal gratification there?
Well, that's the whole goal. The first thing I said to my players when I was named the coach of Winthrop University, our goal on the court is to be playing in March with a chance to advance, and that's the whole goal. You want to be playing in March with a chance to advance, and then it's up to you. What kind of how well are you playing? What are you peaking at the right time? You guys have the minds in the right places. So that's kind of what. And I tell my players now, if you play in your career and you never go to the NCAA tournament, your basketball career is not complete. So that's what you want to do. And we weren't sweating getting in the tournament. We were just wondering who and where. And that's a testament to the quality of program that we've got going here and the quality of individual players that we've got playing for us. These kids put us in a position where not any stress about whether we're in the tournament on the bubble, but who and where, and let's be ready when the ball's tossed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Greg, that was your final question. Thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it. Good luck in Omaha.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. This does wrap up our call. We thank the media for joining us. We will have the call archived on our website within the next couple of hours. Thank you for your participation today.
Thank you. This concludes today's conference. You may now disconnect.